Was Alice in Wonderland based on a true story, and was it actually some sort of alien or UFO encounter? Let's take a walk on the wild side. Get in here, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Oh, and obviously for this video, woo-woo warning. But as Gary Nolan says, when you look into UFOs, the woo-woo is right around the corner. Or in this case, perhaps down a hole. So on the recent episode of his podcast, Whitley Strieber had these two researchers on, and they had written a book in large part about a really intriguing case about a little girl in the UK that went into a strange hole and came out with mystical abilities. And this is, they're saying, inspired the creation of Alice in Wonderland. What does any of this have to do with UFOs and aliens? Well, we'll find out in just a minute. But for now, let's hear what they have to say very briefly. And I encourage you to watch the full interview with these guys. But here is just a little bit of what they had to say.
And James Bateman found on the north part of his land an old tomb that was, a good few thousand years old. And it was a big mound. And he had a cousin called Thomas Bateman. He wanted him to excavate it. And the Bateman family and the Heath family were both there when it was excavated in May of 1851. While they were doing it, Robert Heath's little daughter, Mary, who was only 7 at the time, kind of got away from the crowd of people and clambered into a hole that they'd cut in the side of the mound to get through to the burial chamber, and was the first inside. And she came out different. She claimed that when she was in there, she'd seen a strange world with fairy beings and all sorts of things. But what was most remarkable is she came out and suddenly appeared to have psychic abilities that she didn't have before. She started telling people things about themselves that she couldn't have known. But more than this, she also, when she was in the tomb, she dug down a little bit in a place that she knew she had to in her mind somehow, and found a small stone about 2 inches by 2 inches, cut into the shape of a heart, made of rose quartz. And she said this had been there for years and it was very important. And she eventually proved that she had gained these psychic abilities by taking the families to a nearby ruined chapel, told them to dig in a corner of the church, and they would find a long forgotten crypt. And it was there. That's how it started. And I really wanted to investigate.
So investigate they did. And during the course of their investigation, they got it in their head to find this stone that Mary had brought out of the tomb. And in their pursuit for this stone, once they began this pursuit, they began to have all these trippy metaphysical, otherworldly experiences. And as soon as they got the stone, those experiences stopped. But they give several different anecdotes of the sorts of experiences that they had leading up to this discovery. It's really fascinating, and I'm going to have to read their book. I've already bought it. I've got it queued up, my next read. So again, what does any of this have to do with UFOs or aliens? Well, many abductees and contactees, once they begin contact, they go into a strange place. As Whitley Strieber himself says, he was taken to a deeper level of reality. And when they come back, they are often imbued with gifts, with metaphysical, psychic abilities, healing abilities, what have you. And this also comports very well with a lot of fairy folklore in mythology. This is something that Jacques Vallée has talked about quite a bit, the confluence of the alien and the mythical. Here are various beings that Jacques Vallée studied and investigated that all have some similar attributes. And as you can see, these fairy and gnome-like beings are right up there with the Nordics and the Greys. So let's see, and there is some music in this video, so I can't play the sound. I'm just going to have to read the subtitles. But here we go. I'm going to read just a little bit of this video. For example, in the short Alien Beings seen by abductees and other 20th century UFO witnesses, he is Jacques Vallée, also explored tales of similar entity encounters in European myth and Judeo-Christian demonology. Yeah, just amazing. All of these entities were known to occasionally abduct their witnesses and leave them with symptoms of paralysis, fatigue, disorientation, and amnesia. Those who accepted these beings' invitations were frequently taken to other worlds, or else reported missing periods of time that they could not consciously account for. To explain these otherworldly visitors, Vallée proposed the existence of a technologically mediated extra-dimensional intelligence that has operated throughout human history, masquerading as creatures of myth and legend in the witnesses' cultures. This intelligence, he suggested, has repeatedly manifested itself in the form of a technologically or spiritually advanced civilization out of the reach of human technologies and just outside the understanding of witnesses. So, this is what we're dealing with the phenomenon, is this presence that may or may not conform to fit various cultures and archetypes, whatever people are able to understand. That is how it presents itself in this evolving relationship with this phenomenon. And while my opinions about the phenomenon might be different from Jacques, I think that he was on point with this very interesting and more metaphysical or consciousness-based understanding of the UFO phenomenon, that it might not be all it seems to be, that it might indeed be only a representation of something much stranger that people have been encountering forever and being changed by. Such as Mary Heath when she went into that tomb and came out with psychic abilities. And apparently her story went on to inspire Lewis Carroll to create Alice in Wonderland. But it wasn't the Mad Hatter that Mary was seeing, it was fairy folk. Now, were they actually fairies? Were they ETs? Were they other dimensional beings? Were the fairies she was seeing really representations of something more alien or some higher dimensional being? Are we talking about ultra-terrestrials, possibly beings that have always been here, but just kind of out of phase with humanity and with the waking world as we understand it? Something possibly like Bigfoot or something like that. Like I said, woo-woo warning. Jacques says the phenomenon represents itself just what is above us in our conception of the hierarchy of things. For example, this intelligence appeared over medieval Europe in flying sailing ships, while the continent's brightest minds still wondered if there was another layer of thinner air above our own that was home to another civilization. In 1896, the same intelligence appeared over the western United States in flying machines with flapping wings, while inventors all across the country were trying to solve the problem of heavier-than-air flight. So yeah, the airships of the 1800s are a really amazing series of cases that definitely goes hand in hand with possibly our evolving relationship with the phenomenon, or its evolving relationship with us. And now we get to the modern age, and we're seeing more technological devices that, again, are just outside of our understanding of things. But that's where it all gets really weird, is because there are physical craft that have been recovered. There are physical bodies of these entities. I mean, these craft are so solid and so real, you can reverse engineer them. And these beings you can interact with. People complain about their smell oftentimes. These are very physical, solid beings, some of them. But some of them are less solid. And some of the ones that are more solid seem to manifest themselves in our reality coming from a different dimension or plane of existence. Anyway, I love Jacques Vallée. I love his thoughts and theories and research. He is one of the best minds and best conceptualists of the UFO phenomenon alive today, and my hat is off to him for doing such an amazing job and opening our minds up to the possibilities that are out there. But as I think I've shown in the case presented today, well, I can't take credit for it. Willie Strieber interviewed these terrific guests, and they themselves are the one that conducted the research, actually going to these places and having their own trippy metaphysical adventures. But you get the idea, right? This phenomenon still exists today, and it's not just UFOs. Even today, that's where it gets really interesting, is that there do seem to be the nuts and bolts craft, but people are still encountering fairies and mythological beings and crazy stuff to this day. I myself might have had my own fairy encounter. Something knocked something over in my study about a year ago. I saw it out of the corner because I've had a series of interesting incidents over the last few years. After a lifetime of not believing any of this stuff, I was just in my study and I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, and it was physically enough to knock something over on the floor. It was like a book or something. I forget what it was. So what was that? Was that a fairy? I do have a ghost cat that visits me from time to time. I know, I just lost some of you there, but it's a ghost cat. What you gonna do? Anyway, so it could have been the ghost cat, could have been some sort of fairy being, and but yeah, so there's an example of potentially me interacting or being present with one of these fairy folk. I told you, woo-woo warning, guys. Anyway, so what do you think about this case? Was Mary Heath actually in a different realm? Was she taken to the fairy realm? Or was she taken by ETs? Was she abducted by aliens? Or none of the above? Was it something altogether stranger and harder to understand, and it presented itself to her in the only way that she could understand it, and perhaps the only way that we can understand it is by ETs? But really, maybe it's something else, something even more interesting. Let me know what you think about all this craziness in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter or extra links below. And there are plenty of other videos to check out on the channel. If you wanted to support the channel in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. I love all my channel members. Thank you so much. And there's also a PayPal button below. And if you like science fiction and fantasy books, well, I am a novelist and you can buy some of my books. Heck, here's a trailer for one right now. Link in the description.